Hello and welcome to SNK Tuition. Today we're going to be looking at quick core knowledge and this is the basics of algebraic notation. So we're starting right at the beginning. So what will we cover during this video? We will cover what is an algebraic value, what is algebraic notation, and we'll look at multiplication, division and addition and subtraction, as well as some extra things. And at the end we'll do quick practice questions. Now these aren't related to any exam questions, it's just to check your own knowledge and see what you have learned during the video. So what is an algebraic value? Well, an algebraic value is an unknown or changing value which is represented by a letter. So an example would be if we have this expression written down, we have blank plus 7 equals 10. Now instead of writing this as a blank, we can instead replace it with a letter to represent the unknown value. Now obviously this is a very simple calculation. We know in our heads that this is 3, but that this can be used for much more complicated and complex calculations. Another example might be something that you're already familiar with. So it might be something like working out the perimeter, which is of a rectangle, which is equal to 2 multiplied by the length plus width. So if you had a rectangle and we knew the length was 11 centimeters and the width was 6 centimeters, we could actually use this formula to work out the value. And the values are changing depending on which rectangle it is. So algebraic values are basically letters which are representing unknown or changing values. So multiplying in algebra. One basic thing that we need to know is that we never use the multiplication sign in algebra. And now I'll give you another example of this, of what the notation is then if we can't use the multiplication sign. So if, for example, we have 3 multiplied by x, we would instead write this as simply 3x, because in algebra, when we're multiplying, we just write the values that are being multiplied together next to each other, one after the other. Now it's important to remember that numbers always come first and the algebraic letters always come next. So another example might be 3 multiplied by b multiplied by c. So again, we would write this as 3bc, and it means the same thing. Another example could be 3 multiplied by 5 multiplied by a multiplied by d. This would simply be written as 15, because 3 multiplied by 5 is 15, ad. So these are the things to remember. Another thing to note, that sometimes you might see 15 AD and 15 DA. It's important to note that these two are the same things, and it's important you keep them consistent in your calculation. So if you choose to write it as AD, or if the question says AD, you must keep it within, you must use that same thing consistently. But these mean the same thing. It's the same as writing, just as 4 times 3 is the same as 3 times 4. So, just to go over the rules once more before we move on. Values being multiplied together are simply written next to each other, one after the other, and number values always come first and letter values come next. Dividing in algebra. So again, just as we don't use multiplication signs, we do not use the division sign in algebra. Instead, I'll give you an example. If we wanted to write x divided by 3, we would instead write this as x over 3. So we write it like a fraction, basically, and we're not using this division sign. The same goes for if we had x plus 3 over 4, we would simply write this as x plus 3 all over 4. And we can even have letters being the denominator, or the thing that's being divided by. So if we had 4 divided by f, we would write that as 4 over f. And so when we're speaking algebra, so if we were reading this out loud, we wouldn't say x divided by 3, we would say x over 3. And same, just to go back for a second to multiplication, we wouldn't say 3 multiplied by x, we'd say 3x, 3 BC, 15 AD. It's important that we know we have the same, we know how to speak it as well. Okay, moving on. Addition and subtraction in algebra. So I'm not going to talk about addition or subtraction as such. I'm just going to mention that signs are really important in algebra, and this will become clear as you learn more and you get onto more complex calculations such as solving equations. It's really important to know which sign belongs to which term in algebra. So if I give you an example of 3 minus y plus 3x, this is our expression. Now, to know which sign belongs to which term, all we have to do is look at the sign in front of it. Now, obviously, this is 3. We know it's positive, so this is a plus 3. This minus sign belongs to the y, and this plus sign belongs to the 3x. So the 3x is positive, the y is negative, and the 3 is positive. Another example might be, what is y minus 4x plus 3? Again, same thing. We know that here, this is a positive. Here, we have a negative, so it's negative 4x, and this is plus 3. Now, obviously, when we're calculating, we think of this as addition or subtraction, but it's important to just know, make a mental note always, that the sign in front of the term always belongs to it. So when you're moving them around or to other sides of the equation or collecting like terms, it's important to always remember what sign is in front of the term that you are moving or calculating with. Powers in algebra. Powers are really common in algebra, so it's important to familiarise yourself with the notation. So, just as we know that x multiplied by x is x to the power of 2, or x squared. So when we're using powers, to the power of just means that it's the same value being multiplied with itself again and again. So just as we know that 5 multiplied by 5 is 5 squared, x multiplied by x is also 5 squared. Now, a common mistake I see with my students is they see x, they might be trying to work out what x squared means, or they're collecting like terms, and they write x multiplied by x as 2x. This is not the case. Just as 5 multiplied by 5 is not the same as 2 multiplied by 5. It's the same value being multiplied by itself, so it's to the power of. So just to give another quick example, if we had b multiplied by b 3 times, this would be b to the power of 3. So whatever the power is, it is just how many times that value is being multiplied by itself. Another example might be c multiplied by c. So we have this 4 times, that would be c to the power of 4. So anything that is being multiplied by itself, it is to the power of how many times it has been multiplied. Order of notation in algebra. There is a preferred order of notation in most cases, from the highest power terms to the lowest. So what do I mean by this? Well, if I had b minus 3x squared minus x cubed minus 4. Well, the preferred order of this expression is actually going from the highest, so that would be this value here, to the lowest. So can you see how I've made a note of the sign in front of it? So that would actually be minus x cubed, and then next I go to this value, minus 3x squared plus b, because there is nothing in front of that, so we know it's positive, and then minus 4. So as you can see, it went from the highest power to lower to the next term, which is the lowest power, and then to simply a number value. Number values always come at the end. If I gave you another example of this, I could also, another example might be, let me just use a different colour. C to the power of 4 plus C to the power of 5 plus 3C squared minus 6. So as you can see, the highest power is C to the power of 5. So we would write that as C to the power of 5 plus C to the power of 4 plus 3C squared minus 6. So it's descending order always. Now this is really important, and it is especially important to keep in mind when you're collecting like terms. Sometimes when you're collecting like terms, just as I did up here, it might be helpful to circle and tick them as you go along once you've written them in order, but that will become more clear later as you learn more about algebra. So here is the last thing, is just to try some practice questions on your own to see how much you've retained and if you're familiar now with the notation. So pause the video and have a go yourself, and we will now go through them shortly. Okay, so the first one is 3 multiplied by x. And I don't think I actually mentioned one of the reasons why we don't use multiplication signs is x's can sometimes get confused. So someone might see this, or in certain people's handwriting, it might look like 3x squared. So this is written as 3x. 2x divided by 5. Well, we know we write this as x over 5. Now let's see how many x's we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we know this is x to the power of 8. Number 4 is 4a df. Number 5 is f over a plus b. And number 6, well, 3 is positive 3, y is negative, 6x is positive, and minus 2 is negative. So if you got those correct, well done. This is really core knowledge, and it really sets a foundation for the rest of your understanding in algebra. Knowing what the notation means is really helpful in knowing the operations used, and will become really integral to you being able to solve equations. So thank you for watching my video. Subscribe for more maths content, and follow on Instagram at snk.tuition. Thank you.